Hi, my name is Rudolph, and welcome to my channel, Later Life. In this channel, I talk about my life in early retirement and moving to Finland. I just read an article from CNBC titled, "Why Working Longer is a Bad Retirement Plan." In the article, they talk about the fact that, well, working longer is good because it means that you have more time to gather savings and invest. It gives your investments more time to grow. And it also means you spend less time in retirement where you are then also drawing down on your savings. So, why isn't retiring later a good plan? Well, actually, it is a good idea if you're able to do it, but for most people, they don't really know when they'll be able to retire. For many people, they have to retire early because they can't do the jobs that they were doing before. It could be too strenuous and they just don't have the physical capacity to do it, or maybe even the mental capacity to do it. Also, there are medical issues that come into it. If not for themselves, sometimes people have to stop working because they need to care for a loved one, whether it be a spouse or even their own parents. Another factor that definitely does play into it also is job restructuring. I think people of my age will agree that oftentimes when companies are looking to restructure, it's often the older workers who are more expensive that are looked at first, I think. So you might have a good job and they're looking to make savings. Well, if they get rid of one older person, it could probably save them, say, the salary of two younger people. Or maybe, like I was saying before, maybe the older people, aren't as agile and aren't as productive. So maybe for that reason, the company decides that they want to let go of the older workers. But anyway, you look at it, that happens a lot. And, as an individual, you don't have that much control over that. In many cases, for older workers, if they end up losing their job, it's much more difficult for them, especially over the age of 50, to get another job. They cited in the study that for workers over 50, if they are lucky enough to be able to get a job, 90% will end up making less money and considerably less money. So if you are intending to work until, 67 or whatever age, and you're assuming you're going to be earning at a certain level, well, if it turns out that you end up losing your job, there's a very high likelihood that your new salary is going to be much lower, so you won't be able to save the money that you were planning to save. Even though this article focuses on American workers, I can really relate to it, and I think a lot of expats can also relate to it. For us, we work in many different countries often, and we are paying into different social security systems. And depending on how much you move around, you may not actually have the security, the benefits that people who have only worked in one country will have. So I think as an expat, it's really critical to do an exercise where you look at what you've got coming in your retirement years. As an example, me personally, when I lived in the US and I was working there, I paid into Social Security. My employer had a defined benefit plan, or sometimes referred to as a final salary pension scheme. And I also paid into a voluntary or, say, private pension. Now, I worked there over a decade, but, not even half of my career. So I do have some funds in the US, but I've spent a considerable amount of time outside the US. And when I worked in the UK, I had a somewhat similar situation where I've paid national insurance, so I will be getting some portion of a state pension, but because I won't have worked there my entire career, I won't get a full state pension. Similarly, for the US, I'm not going to get full Social Security because I haven't worked there my entire career. I've also then, from my employer, had defined contribution pensions where I contribute a certain amount, they contribute a certain amount, and depending on how those investments do, that's what my pension provision, or say my retirement provision, will be. And then lastly, I worked in the Middle East where we had a different system. It's called gratuity. And there is no pension plan. And in essence, your employer gives you a certain amount of money based on your longevity with the company and what your basic salary is. And that turns out to be sort of like a lump sum payment that you get when you leave the company. And that system is called gratuity. So here I am in Finland. I turned up, and when I got here, my plan was to just retire and take it easy. However, I discovered that Finland is actually quite an expensive place. And while I do have the resources where I don't have to work, it's a lot more comfortable if I do work. I suppose I could just spend the next, 30 years eating toast and beans, but I think I'd probably like a slightly more comfortable existence. So what I did when I got here is the first thing I started with was my gratuity. I had just come from the Middle East. I'd gotten this big lump sum, and I basically used that as living expenses. By the time that had sort of run out, I had decided that even though my plan was to retire, that I was actually going to try and get a job. And I signed up for the immigrant integration course offered by the employment office. And while I'm on that course, I actually am able to get some benefits from the social security system in Finland. I should also mention, I suppose that's one thing, that even though I am new to Finland, I'm a what I'll call regular resident. So I'm not on a student visa, I'm not on a retiree visa. So I'm actually able to live and work and participate and do anything that a regular Finnish citizen or resident can participate in. So I have no restrictions on what I can do. Now, when I got here, I thought, well, let me try and look for a job. And I quickly discovered that I just don't see it as being feasible. And so I decided that I'm going to have to think of some more other creative ways to earn some extra income. One of the things that happened to me was actually I was approached about doing a special assignment, 6-month assignment in Scotland last year. So I did that assignment. It had been at that point 2 years since I'd actually turned up to a job. So that took a little bit of adjusting, but I was quickly back in the swing of things. And I did that assignment. And by the end of the assignment, that gave me another little pool of money that I could that I could use for living expenses once I was back in Finland. Another thing that's come up is I've actually done a little bit of modeling, believe it or not. And what I've done is a couple commercials. And, they're not huge money makers, but, I would say one commercial probably gives me enough living expenses for a month. So they tend to, so far, I've been here 3 years and I've been involved with 3 productions. So I'm guessing, maybe once a year they'll come up. And, I'm hoping next year I'll get one. I just did one in August, so it hasn't been a year yet. So let's see when the next one turns up. In my specific situation, I'm able to start taking my private pension from the UK. For the US, I am not old enough yet to start accessing that. And from Oman, I've already spent all the money that I got as part of my gratuity. So my current plan is that basically whenever my bank balance is low, I just turn to my UK pension and I take out a few £1,000, enough to give me some living expenses for a while. And then when that comes down, maybe with some luck, maybe I'll do a modeling assignment, or maybe I will get another temporary assignment. Something may come up that might give me some work. But basically my goal is to try and see if I can bring in some extra income. And when the balance is empty, then I just take from my retirement account. I've done a budget to project how long I think I can keep this going. And I believe that I can actually keep this going for many years. And the idea being that, I can keep my expenses low when my bank balance is low. And if I get some other extra assignments or some extra money coming in, then I can splash out and maybe take a trip and do some more discretionary spending. My current plan is to wait until I'm 70 to start drawing on my Social Security and my state pension from the UK. The reason for that is the longer you wait, the more the balance builds up. So usually there will be for the US, I think my full retirement age is 67, maybe 68. I'm not sure right now. And I think for UK, I'm pretty sure UK it's 67. So in essence, I can get my full, say, pension at that age. But if I wait until 70, they increase it by a nice amount every year. And the good thing is that increase, you obviously keep that all the way for the rest of your life. They say that I think you need to live maybe around 10 years or so, 10, 15 years. I haven't looked at the statistics closely lately, in order to make it worth your while to delay until you're 70 to start taking your pension. Because, obviously, if you start, like in the US, you can start taking your pension from 62. If you wait until you're 70, you die at 71, you'll have lost a lot of money. But I'm not really looking at it as like a financial decision. I'm looking at it as an insurance decision. Because if I have enough money to last until I'm 70, then that's fine. But then I know that once I'm 70, that I'm pretty much taken care of for the rest of my life, as opposed to if I start taking Social Security at 70, and that's going to be a small amount. And so, I'd rather have that comfort knowing that, okay, when I hit 70, that's it. I have a nice amount coming in, and I'm not going to have to really scrimp and save. The one concern I have is that I believe definitely the US and also the UK, the Social Security and state pensions are underfunded, and they either need to raise retirement ages or increase taxes in order to shore them up. But obviously those are not vote winners. And I am worried that the benefits will actually reduce. And so I have thought about maybe I should start taking them as soon as I'm eligible, just to kind of hedge my bets. Because if I wait until I'm 70, in order to do that, I'm really going to spend down basically all of my own personal retirement savings. And if I do that, and it turns out that, the benefits aren't as good as they were promised to be, maybe I would have been better off to start taking it early, so that I still have more of my own personal savings set aside in case something untoward happens. But, I've got several years before I need to think about that. So for now, that's the plan. Try to make some extra income, and when I can't, then take what I can, what's available in my pension account, and hopefully those will last till I'm 70, and at which point then I can just start relying on the state pension. In terms of other ideas for trying to make some extra income, obviously if I can get more sort of 6-month assignments, I would definitely love to do those. And otherwise, that's one of the reasons I started this YouTube channel. I'm trying to see if there's a way I can turn it into something where I can make some money. I'm not expecting that to happen, anytime soon, but maybe 2-3 years down the line, I can get monetized, and maybe I can get a little bit of extra cash in to help supplement my income. Additionally, another thing I've been thinking about is creating some financial spreadsheets that I could sell online. I have actually created one. It hasn't sold anything yet, but they say you need to have a few spreadsheets on your online store to make it visible and to have more possibility of selling. So I haven't gone back to add any more. I only have the one, but I'm going to be working on that over the next couple months, and that's something else I'm hoping to see whether or not that generates any income. Additionally, once I do that, I will actually create a video on that, kind of show you the process, just to give you guys some ideas about things you could do to gain some extra income. As I mentioned before, I have this modeling side gig that, once a year I go off for a day or two and shoot a commercial. And actually, I think that's something that other expats could think about, especially if you live in a country where you don't look like the typical person. I think if I was in the US or UK, I'm not so sure it would be as easy to get modeling contracts because there's so many people doing it. living in Finland, there aren't that many people that look like me. And so if they're looking to type a certain cast, older black male, in a video then or a commercial, I actually have a pretty good shot of being successful. In fact, actually, I've applied for three shoots and I've actually been successful in two of them. And one of them, I was the backup, and I think I was actually a bit too young for that one. So, if you're living somewhere like in Asia and you're not Asian, maybe you can look and see if there's a way to find an agency that scouts for talent. And that could be another way that, you could look at making some extra side income. That's it for today. Thanks for joining me in this episode where I talk about how I'm funding my early retirement. Bye bye.